Hi and welcome everybody to the Endo Fertility Podcast, where you will be empowered to learn how to thrive and conceive with endometriosis. If you want to understand more about your endometriosis, how it can affect your fertility, and how you can personally take action to optimize your health and life, then this is the place for you. I am your host, Lizzie Alexander, founder of the Endo Fertility Specialist. As a doctor of marine ecology turned integrated nutrition health coach and holistic massage therapist, I bring a unique perspective to our discussions. Most importantly, I know what it's like to experience chronic fatigue and endo and struggle for years with primary and secondary infertility. I am now a super busy, thriving military wife, business owner and mother of an adorable little boy. Join me every Wednesday as I dive into topics that will support and guide you, from knowledge about endo and conceiving to nutrition, lifestyle and mindset, pain management to assisted fertility support, functional nutrition and testing, and much more. This podcast is designed to enhance your knowledge so you can explore the whys behind your endo and fertility struggles, whilst moving forwards towards thriving and conceiving. Please note that this is not meant to replace your current medical advice. Together, we will explore a holistic approach to healing that equips you with a toolbox full of diverse strategies to help you manage your endo and enhance your fertility journey. So sit back, relax, and enjoy listening. This episode is brought to you by my Ultimate Endo Fertility Library, available through the Endo Fertility app. This app, available on Apple and Google Play, makes it super easy to access valuable resources and courses right on your phone, even offline, making it perfect for meditations and travel. Inside the free library, you will find essential first steps to support your healing journey, including a quick start ebook, symptom tracker, delicious recipes, workbooks, guided meditations, and other helpful resources. So make sure to check out the show notes for the link to start exploring these resources today. Hello, amazing listeners. I am thrilled to have you back on the podcast. After a 2-year break, I can't tell you how excited I am to have you all here again. So these past couple of years have been quite a journey for my husband and I. We've had some truly wonderful moments, and we've also faced some really, really hard challenges. These challenges are why I wasn't ready to produce episodes of the podcast for a while. And I'm back now, and I can't wait to share these experiences with you. For those of you who've listened to the early episodes, you might remember one of the last episodes was number 44, and it was back in May 2022, so quite a while ago now. In that episode, I opened up about my postpartum recovery and also our journey in trying to conceive our second child. Now, I talked about nutritional care, various functional tests, treatments that we were trying at the time as well. So today, I want to give you an overview of what's been happening since then. And I tell you what, it's been quite a ride. It's involved fertility treatments, moving to a new country, moving house, and several surgeries. And some of you may have picked up on this if you've been following me on Instagram or in the Facebook group Thrive and Conceive with Endometriosis. So let's start with our big move to Oman in the summer of 2022. So that's like 2 years ago now. Now, moving to a new country is always an adventure. It comes with its fair share of challenges too. And we've had to adapt to a whole new routine, a very different climate. Let me tell you, the Omani summer is hot, hot, hot. It is literally no joke. And a different culture as well, though not that new for me, as I've lived here previously about 10 years ago. So I found myself really juggling work due to the short preschool hours, the time zone issues, which were really interesting to say the least. Driving, so the driving around here, there's a huge amount of driving that needs to be done. The distances that I drive, the traffic that you get stuck in. And so these were like just some of the things that we were having to deal with, or I was having to deal with on that daily basis. And then there was kind of like this unexpected issue of severe mold in our new home. I mean, I'd had mold in my previous home, like in a cupboard under the stairs, but this was on another level, and I'll come on to that later. So through all of this, I learned a really important lesson that I want to share with you guys. During times of big change, it's really crucial to be kind to yourself. Take things one step at a time and remember that being adaptable is key. And I will, come to that. I've got 10 lessons I want to share from this journey at the end of the podcast. So make sure you carry on listening. So I found that nurturing my nervous system was absolutely crucial. And I didn't manage to do this at times. It's very easy to know what to do. And I do know what these things are. I've learned that obviously from previous journey, but also in my education, what I've gone on and learned this about. But, this is so important. I mean, food is important, but nurturing your nervous system is not just crucial for managing your endometriosis symptoms, but for fertility as well, because the body needs to feel safe. If you're constantly this fight, flight, or freeze mode, then this is not a good state to be in. It doesn't matter what food you're putting in your body if your nervous system is not, feeling calm and relaxed and safe. And I'm not saying that you have to feel like that all the time, but if you're in this chronic sort of constantly firefighting all the time, this is not a good state. Now, despite all our efforts, and we'd tried an awful lot, we weren't getting pregnant. So after about 4 months in Oman, we started seriously discussing IVF. And we discussed it before, but, and I'd been putting it off and off. We ended up choosing a clinic and began the process. But our first attempt post dengue fever, that's a story for another time, didn't go as we hoped. So sadly, we got no eggs, which was a huge and unexpected blow. This led us to consider donor egg IVF, which I have to say I never thought would be an option for various reasons. And this then opened up like this whole new chapter in our journey, particularly as donor IVF is not something that is okay to do out in Oman or in the nearby countries in the area. So it meant having to travel elsewhere for this. So what happened then is that we ended up having to travel to Greece, and that's another story. And I will go into these deep dives. When I say this, not into another story, I'll go into these deep dives later on in other podcast episodes, because I really feel that I want to be able to provide this information to you. But throughout all of this that was going on, we were still dealing with mold problems that I mentioned earlier. It was causing significant amount of stress, particularly to me with my knowledge around mold, the implications of what causes mold, and especially when it came to our son's health. Eventually, I just couldn't cope with this stress any longer. And I did throw my toys out the pram. I requested to move to a different house because we were about to start IVF, and I didn't want to be starting IVF in this place of stress and worrying what the mold was doing to us, and thinking, do you know what, we're going to spend a huge amount of money and it's just going to be down the drain if I'm living in a moldy house that I can't do anything about. So anyway, we made it happen in a matter of literally 7 days. And I can't tell you what a relief it was to my nervous system, to my intuition. And I knew that it had been a major issue, because once we moved house, it just felt totally different. And let's just say that they realized that there was like a major leak in the house that had been going on for a couple of years, and that nobody had spotted. So I'm glad that I listened to myself. So the whole experience has kind of like had this invaluable lesson to trust my instincts. My instincts are actually really strong, and I do quite a lot of the time follow my intuition, but sometimes I kind of ignore it. And I think one of the lessons I've learned here is that my instincts are right when I learn to listen to them. So for you, if you know something isn't right, don't give up advocating for yourself and your family's health. And that could be anything, whether it's you don't feel right doing fertility treatment, or you've been to a doctor and you feel like something hasn't been investigated properly and you don't feel, just things don't feel right. Something doesn't sit with you, whether it's you think you've got endometriosis and nobody's listening to you and you need to fight to get a diagnosis. Listen to your intuition and your instincts and follow up on that. Don't let others push you down in terms of that. So we ended up moving forward with donor egg IVF in Greece. And this experience, well, it had its own set of challenges. It had its emotional ups and downs. We had various detailed tests, which were excellent. I had 2 hysteroscopies over the course of a year, which included uterine cuts. And these were a bit more than the typical sort of scratches in the end. And we had 3 embryo transfers, each one bringing with it kind of a new wave of hope and, unfortunately, disappointment because they each didn't work. And like I said, I'll plan to dive deeper into this experience in future episodes, because I know that this topic deserves a number, either 1 or at least 2 episodes around that, whether it's preparation around IVF and also finding clinics overseas, all sorts of experiences that I went through. So after the last failed round in May, we spent quite some time going round and round about what our next move was. We were obviously surrounded by a lot of grief and shock, because we thought it would happen. We'd gambled with a lot of money, as you do when you go through IVF, and we got to the point where we had run out of embryos and also money as part of that journey. Now, I had a strong feeling, so again, my intuition, that it hadn't worked because of the endometriosis. Now, I'd felt that despite all the work that I'd done over the last 7 years to maintain my symptoms holistically through nutrition and lifestyle, but I have to say, over the last year, my symptoms had started to increase during the IVF. And obviously, this was due to the increased amount of hormones that I was on during the IVF process. And so I felt that I needed to address this through surgery. I just felt like going through more IVF without doing something differently was going to be money down the drain. I do feel like my immune system was too high. Because we weren't even getting a pregnancy test and then it was failing. I just feel like the implantation wasn't working. And from tests, my natural killer cells were slightly elevated. I do feel like if I hadn't have looked after myself, they would have been elevated more. And though I was put on immunosuppressant, I don't believe from my research that was actually high enough, unfortunately. Now, the research has shown that mild endometriosis, women with mild endometriosis, that surgery can be a real help. And it was part of the tools that I used before. So when I got pregnant before, and then obviously I cleaned up my diet, my lifestyle, we ended up then getting pregnant before. So my body knows it can do it. I know my body can do it. And so I felt like surgery was the next option. And so we spent then time finding a surgeon, and it had to be back in the UK. And we found a reputable surgeon back there, and then planned to do that when I was back there over the summer. And so that's what I did. Had surgery, recovered, and now I'm back in Oman after that 2 months kind of like stint on holiday. So where are we now? We're at this stage where we don't want to do any more IVF, as we can't really afford it, because we feel like it's going to put our son and our family kind of on a back foot financially. So until we can kind of like save up some more and decide, do we want to do that? We've used kind of like the last money on doing the laparoscopy, because we felt that the benefit would be at least I'd have a clean out. We could try naturally and see where we're at after, 6 months, a year. And hopefully we'll get pregnant. And if not, and if we do, then that'll be our miracle. But if not, at least we know that we have tried as much as we could afford to emotionally and financially. So knowing now what I do, I really wish that I'd sought having surgery before the IVF. It was a difficult choice. I know I ummed and ahed about it. I was convinced to try the IVF first by the clinic. We were in quite a difficult situation with living overseas. So there was a cost of then going home, leaving my son for an extended amount of, so there were lots of things that we're kind of juggling. But I do feel having the surgery, even though it is obviously an inconvenience, it takes time to recover, would have been a better way to go. But I know it's also a chicken and egg thing. And I've sat with clients many a time where they're like, I don't know what to do. Do I have surgery? Do I go for IVF? Which one? And obviously every case is different. Sometimes people, clinics and doctors will say go for surgery first, then go for IVF. Many clinics, IVF clinics, will say try IVF, see if you get pregnant, and then go for surgery if you don't get pregnant. And that's all very well, but you've then wasted some money, wasted quite a lot of money. And so it's really difficult. It is trial and error. IVF is trial and error. You try the different scenarios. Some people are successful straight away, others are not. But for me, I felt like my inflammation and the high natural killer cells and my heightened immune system all had an impact on implantation. And like I said, I was put on this immune suppressant, but I don't believe it was high enough. So I would personally have chosen to have had the surgery done before the IVF. But and this is something, funnily enough, I did an interview this week with a past client for a testimonial episode, and she said the same. She said she could have saved herself years of angst on IVF, not to mention the money. So after multiple unsuccessful attempts, and this recent laparoscopic surgery for endometriosis, we've decided to kind of like shift our focus a little bit. We're now focusing on living life to the fullest, enjoying our son, who is soon to be 6 years old. And I know that we are super lucky to have him. And I've also spent the last couple of years feeling guilty that I have him, which is a ridiculous feeling to have, because I know there are so many people who don't even have one son. But there has been a lot of guilt around him not having a sibling and not being able to share that with him. But our mindset's changing around this, and we're still open for the possibility of a natural miracle. But like I said, I think we've put our life on a lot of hold. It's been 7 years of infertility, primary and secondary, and it's challenged our marriage and so much more, but we survived. And we've now got 9 months left here in Oman, and I want to get the most out of it. So does my husband. And, it's taken a lot to get to this point. So finally, I just wanted to mention that earlier this year, I realized that I was kind of like frozen, that I had no emotions. And I recognized these early signs of low mood going into depression, as I've been there before. And I knew that I needed to seek some mental health support. Now, like, I tried a few times the previous year, but struggled to find a suitable therapist just because of our location, because there's little provision here in Oman. And online, I didn't get on well with a couple that I tried, and then I kind of like put it on the back burner. I didn't really prioritize it, and I really should have done. That's something that I will say, is I really should have prioritized it so that I had the support before I got to the point where I really needed the support. So finally, over the summer, I started with a therapist and also a life coach, because there was an opportunity to work with a life coach. And this has made a huge difference. So it's helped me reframe everything, face what we've been through, rather than kind of like bury it and carry on, which I'm pretty good at doing. And I've started to feel again. I've started to feel like joy in my heart. I've refound passion for my work. And I think that's been quite a struggle. The fact that I work and what we've gone through is very, very interlinked, the two of them. And so that in itself, like unpicking those emotions around that, has taken quite a bit of work. And I'm back to the place where I just want to share what I have been through, the lessons that I've learned, and the knowledge that I've accrued along the way, that I want to be able to share with so many other women, so they don't have to go through as long a journey. And so I have got 10 key lessons I've learned over the last 2 years. There's many more like little ones, but these are some big ones that I've picked out. So number one is to embrace change. So moving countries and adjusting to new environments, this has been challenging. And I know that everyone goes through change of some sort, whether it's change of job or change of location. And it's really essential to kind of like be kind to yourself and take one step at a time when it comes to facing significant challenges and changes in your life. 2 is to stay positive. And that is a really difficult one because you could say, staying positive, that's really hard, but trying to find the small wins in what you do. There will be things that will set you back, but what is it that you've learned through those tough situations? Trying to, and that's where journaling is really good, because you can kind of look at those hard situations and you can just find the tiny small things. And that really helps with your mental health as well, maintaining this kind of like healthy mindset. And it helps with this ability to carry on as well. So number 3 is prioritize your self-care. So this is really important, making sure that you make time for self-care practices such as meditation, physical activity. I wasn't so good at the physical activity aspect. And then time with new friends and family, or existing friends and family, that supports your mental health and your emotional well-being, whether that's trying to find a community that understands what you're going through as well. So just that self-care is so important. And sometimes it's easy to put that at the bottom of the pile with all the other responsibilities you may have. Number 4, trust your instincts. Oh, this is so important. If something feels off, in my case, the issues related to the mold, also surgery aspects. But in terms of the mold, I eventually made sure that I advocated for myself, and I sought solutions. And all the way through, there were many solutions that I was finding, but it was like, actually, how can I get myself out of this situation? I feel like this situation is having a massive impact. So really trusting your instinct and believing that you know what is best there. Number 5, flexibility is the key. So adaptability is really important, especially when it comes to creating habits and new routines. And like when you're changing, when you're even embracing using holistic tools, nutrition, physical exercise, various different alternative methods to help you on this journey, you need to create new routines and habits. And it's really important to understand that this takes time. And perfection is not going to be necessary, because if you seek perfection, you'll make mistakes, you'll drop it, and then you'll end up self-sabotage. So maintaining flexibility means that you don't end up sort of judging yourself too much either, and realizing, take 2, take 3, and you will eventually start to make it part of your life where you're not having to think about it. 6 is quality nutrition, really matters. I would also add in here as well exercise, but in terms of the nutrition, like focusing on getting good quality food, but as much as you can afford. And it's often this balance between what's affordable and the good quality food, making choices around things. And you have to make compromises, because unless you're super duper rich, you're not going to be able to afford to have everything as organic. And so therefore it's thinking, okay, what has the heaviest toxic load? Try and avoid those, pay for what I can afford. For me, choosing good quality, certain elements of meats, soft fruits that are frozen because I can't buy organic. So making those right choices and realizing that you can't be perfect. Embracing differences. So living overseas, I have embraced local specialities and alternatives that kind of are able to suit my dietary requirements. Number 7 is community support. So building a supportive network around yourself can really alleviate stress, especially when you're living away from family and friends. And I've had various clients that have ended up having to move away as well. And so don't underestimate the power of friendships during challenging times, and especially those that are going through similar things to you. And as part of this, if you're someone that struggles to open up, try and open up to your friends, because actually you'll realize that there are a lot more people who've actually been through things, but we keep it quiet and we don't talk about it. And when you realize that other people have gone through it, this can make a huge it can deepen your bond, but it can make a huge impact on your journey as well. So number 8 is mental health awareness. Acknowledging the emotional roller coaster of being on a fertility journey is huge. It is totally normal to experience big highs, small lows, big lows. And it's really, really important to find ways to cope, whether it's going away with family and friends, making time to connect with those that are important, to finding professional mental health support, whether that's you just on your own or whether that's you and your partner, your husband, your wife, so that you can, start to provide some healing techniques to your mental health, because you will be pushed on this journey. You really, really will. And there will be scars at the end of it. Number 9, be prepared for setbacks. This is a really hard one, understanding that not every attempt will be successful. If you're trying naturally, that sort of comes more naturally because, each month that goes past that you aren't successful, you deal with it. You understand that. But when you're going through a fertility journey involving assisted reproduction, where there's the money involved, I think this is really important to understand. Learning from your experiences and then using it to inform your future decisions as well. And that's very hard. And this is where sometimes we can really benefit from having those support networks, from having people who are going through this, from having professionals who understand that as well. And then number 10, seeking professional guidance. Like when you're considering IVF or other medical interventions, doing your research, but also talking to professionals who are knowledgeable, who understand it. Like I had someone who was an expert in IVF and endometriosis who I wasn't working with, who was a friend. I did find sometimes it was a little bit difficult because they were kind of like opposing some of the opinions of what I was going through. So that made me question things. So sometimes it's like too much help can be too much help, but it is trusting yourself. So if you then go, actually, I can't cope with this, then kind of like step away from that. But equally, having lots of knowledge can be super, super helpful. So I hope you found these lessons helpful and that you realize you're not alone on this journey. Everyone that I meet and talk to about their fertility journey has had it super tough. And it's realizing you're not alone, that talking about it can really, really help you, whether it's strangers in a community that you have found that suits you, or whether it's your loved ones, if you're able to feel that you can share this. So, as we come to the end of the podcast, I am really excited to announce that I'm in the process of setting up an affordable monthly coaching membership. So the goal is to help women transform their health, manage their endometriosis symptoms, and optimize their fertility. Now, this will offer education, coaching, and a community. And I can't wait to tell you more about this in the coming weeks. I was hoping to have it ready in October, but because I've been launching the podcast, it is going to be a few weeks later, just because I want to make sure that it is ready for you. And I will be running a beta. So make sure if you're on my email list, you will be the first to hear about it and you can sign up for that opportunity. So in upcoming episodes, I will be diving deeper into topics like donor IVF, how to choose an overseas clinic, how to prepare for fertility related surgeries, endometriosis related surgeries. And I also have some fantastic interviews lined up, which I think you will find really valuable. So next week is an interview with a psychotherapist, which ties nicely in with Mental Health Awareness Month. And then later, there are episodes with a nutritionist in miscarriage and loss, a Mayan abdominal massage therapist. And then also I've got an expert on Epstein-Barr virus, which I'm very excited about. And then also introducing something slightly new this season, I'm going to be chatting through with some past clients and their success stories. And then also we're going to have some short bite-size, top tips on various topics as well. So thank you so much for tuning in for the first episode of season 4. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. And if you need help, whether it's one-off, one-to-one to review your blood work or decide upon your fertility strategy, to a bespoke one-to-one program if you need in-depth support or functional testing, or if you're interested in the membership, then get in contact by emailing me at lizzie@endofertilityspecialist.com. So until next week, take care of yourselves and remember you're not alone on this journey. So bye for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and found some useful tips and actions you can take away and put into practice. If you loved listening, be sure to subscribe so you'd never miss an episode. It would be amazing if you could take a minute to leave an Apple or Spotify review. Your feedback helps us reach more women who might benefit and keeps the podcast going strong, and it only takes a second. If you know someone who would love to listen to this episode, please share it with them. So this season, I'm introducing the podcast goodie bag, where you will get access to a range of fantastic freebies contributed from our guests. To do this, you just have to sign up to the Endo Fertility mailing list, which is where you'll be the first to hear my inner thoughts, tried experiences, and the latest products and service launches. The link to the podcast goodie bag sign-up page is in the show notes below. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next week for another episode.